speak about the fact yesterday that I felt as if the esteemed host of this show was being rather edited out of some of the footage. I mean, we barely saw him on last night's episode. There's this incident where we believe he told a really great anecdote about Donald Trump, as is his wont, because obviously they know each other quite well. One would expect that to be played because actually there probably aren't better stories than talking about one's relationship with a former US president, particularly when it's Trump, and yet none of it's seen the light of day. What do we think's going on, Ben?
Yeah, that's right. So like you and everyone else at home, I watched last night's episode and was dismayed at the fact he had about 40 seconds, Nigel, had about 40 seconds airtime. He woke up in the jungle and said how beautiful it was, and that was it for the rest of the show. That made me really push forward with something that I discovered a couple of days ago. I have good sources from inside the I'm a Celeb camp who told me that Nigel had quite an interesting conversation about his good friend Donald Trump, about how he helped him on the election trail, how he was a great guy and he was a good friend, and all the campmates were very interested in it. ITV never played that conversation, they never broadcast it, and after seeing that episode last night where Nigel was pretty much airbrushed out the entire episode, I really sort of pushed ahead with it and went to ITV and said, guys, what is going on here? You've not played this interesting conversation about Trump that the campmates were quite keen to listen to. And you would have thought, Trump being one of the most controversial, divisive, popular people in the world, they could have spared 20 or 30 seconds to include that in an episode of the show. They didn't, and all it's done is fuel these rumours and these growing concerns that ITV are deliberately censoring Farage now and starving him of airtime because they want him out the jungle. The theories are that they put Nigel in there to kind of discredit him and get him to make a fool of himself. He's had a few arguments about Brexit, about immigration, which arguably I think he's come out looking better for. He's shown that you can discuss these issues without being toxic or tribal, and you can have a good, honest debate. And I honestly believe now that ITV thought they were going to dunk on Nigel and make him look stupid and really discredit him in the eyes of the public. It hasn't worked, and now we're learning and understanding that he's being censored for airtime because, assumably, reportedly, they want him out of the jungle. So it is worrying. And also, I'll just add as well, I went to ITV with the revelations that I found about the Trump conversation, which no one else had. It was something I got exclusively. They ignored me and never got back to me. And only when I broke the story on Patrick did they then give comments to The Sun and The Mail and The Mirror, and they've still not spoken to me. I knew the story was true. I didn't need their response. I didn't need their confirmation. But just out of courtesy, ITV could have got back to me, and they didn't. So there seems to be an agenda at play against GBNews and against Nigel, and it's quite concerning.
It is concerning. The only kind of counter-narrative I can think of, though, is it would be strange for them to want to dump him out of the jungle when they've reportedly paid him so much money to be in there. And I mean, I did notice the story on the Mail Online sort of suggesting that there were ideological forces that might be opposed to his stance on Brexit and other policy areas that are kind of influencing the production process. And there are people there that just don't like him and don't want him to get their airtime. Maybe after he also said he wanted to do the trials because he would be on television more. I don't know if there's anything in that, Ben.
Well, that story on the Mail Online and also on The Sun, that was a follow of our GBNews exclusive. That was my story. They've elaborated on it slightly with some insider quotes from the show saying that they fear there's dirty tricks at play. But as you said, there's a theory that the show is full of lefty producers, and yes, they did pay him a rumoured £1.5 million to get him on, but as I mentioned, this growing theory is that they got him on the show to discredit him, to really smash his reputation during a time where it's highly thought that Nigel is at some point going to get back into politics. If and when the Tories are wiped out at the next election by Labour, Nigel is rumoured to be cozying back up with the Tories. He was, of course, at the Tory conference for the first time in decades in October, and also he's got links to reform as well. So he is, at some point, I think, going to get back into politics. He's made no secret of the fact that he's using I'm a Celebrity to touch base with these 10 million viewers who he thinks wouldn't have given him a chance before. So I think, and I'm going to just put this out there now, that they got him on the show to discredit him, to tarnish his reputation, to make sure that he doesn't have a future in politics. It hasn't worked because he's come out as a genuinely nice person. He's not a racist, he's not a xenophobe, and now the tactic is to starve him of airtime, which colludes with the fact that I found out they are censoring very decent and interesting conversations about Donald Trump. Why would you omit that?